in this period, I'm taking an additional 1 to 2,000 IUs a day in addition to what's in the prenatal. It can support ovarian health, hormone regulation, successful implantation, and also for your partners out there. And I'll talk about that a little bit later, but make sure your partner is also getting adequate vitamin D.
It's a ticket talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it. And it's a ticket talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a...
Hi, I'm Cerise. I'm a registered dietitian and I'm the host of this podcast, Maternity Leave. And today I wanted to talk about a topic that's near and dear to my heart, and that's fertility over 35 plus. I had my first child when I was 33, and it didn't take too long until I realized that I wanted more children. But realistically, considering that we didn't have any help, and I just knew that in order to maintain my physical and mental health and everything, some things had to align first. And now that my son is 2 and he's communicating more and he's potty trained and a bit more independent, and I just feel in general, I physically feel like I'm ready. So now we're planning to have our second baby. So I turned 36 in July. So now when I get pregnant, this will be considered a geriatric pregnancy. That sounds so bad, but okay, whatever. But whatever, I'm not a spring chicken anymore. And I just thought I would be proactive about doing everything that I can, everything that's in my control to make sure that I prepare my body properly for pregnancy so that it's as good, maybe even better than the first time around. I really had a beautiful pregnancy the first time around, besides the first trimester where I just felt blah for like the first 12 weeks. Afterwards, it was pretty much smooth sailing. I had a good pregnancy. So I'm hoping this time will be the same. And I want to share some of the things that are from my professional experience, personal experience. Everything is evidence-based in order to prepare my body for pregnancy. In the show notes, I'll make sure that I'll have the Cliff Notes version of everything that I'm talking about today, including the products that I'm using and recommend so that you can access them if you're also on this journey. Quick disclaimer, I'm a dietitian, but I'm not your dietitian. Everything that I'm talking about refers to a healthy adult woman. If you need any personalized recommendations, you're welcome to book a one-on-one session with me. I'll also have the link down in the show notes and we can customize everything for your situation or just your preferences. Or you can consult with your healthcare provider. Okay, now let's get into it. So it was right around my son's second birthday where we said, okay, we're ready to do this. We're ready to have another baby. And that's when I went into planning and research mode, making sure I'm up to date with everything that I could do to have the healthiest birth outcomes. The way we planned it is that we would give ourselves 3 months to prime our bodies for pregnancy. We're a relatively healthy family, but there's always room to improve. And now I was more focused and determined than ever now that we had a cause, a target. So the first thing that I did was I booked a doctor's visit. I spoke to my doctor, I spoke to my gynecologist, I got thorough blood work, I got a pelvic exam and an ultrasound just to make sure that, I don't have any deficiencies. And I'm glad I did blood work because I discovered that I had an iron deficiency, which I was totally not aware of because I've been taking a prenatal vitamin with iron since before my last pregnancy and consistently because I'm also still breastfeeding, even though we're working on weaning now. Obviously, the iron that was in the prenatal just wasn't enough to keep up with the demands of my body, considering prolonged breastfeeding like me. So if you're breastfeeding over a year, that's something that you want to get checked out. So anyways, I got that covered. I was like, okay, that was the only thing that I needed to address. Everything else, I was good to go. The next thing was buckling down on my nutrition. Like I mentioned before, I eat relatively healthy anyways. I'm a nutritionist, but with all my awareness on the topic, I know that I'm not eating enough protein on a daily basis consistently. We all know the benefits of protein for our muscles, but they also have a role in our fertility. Eating adequate protein can contribute to healthier hormone balance. You'll make sure that all the muscle and all the structures that you need to make a baby and support a baby throughout 9 months of pregnancy are nice and healthy. And protein also helps with egg maturation and ovarian health and just overall beneficial for fertility. So you want to make sure that you're eating your protein. That's something that I've become a lot more intentional about, making sure that I have at least 30 grams of protein with every meal. For me, I'm plant-based, so protein sources for me are tofu and tempeh and legumes, seeds, nuts, things like that. If you're an omnivore and you eat meat, so for you, that'll be lean meats, poultry, fish, low-fat dairy products. And also you can, you want to diversify. You want to consume some plant-based sources of protein as well, like beans, lentils, legumes. And if you find it difficult reaching your protein targets, like me sometimes when I just don't feel like eating a large meal, or if it's a day where I worked out, then you can always supplement with a high quality protein powder. And I'll link some below that I like, and I'll also have it on the Cliff Notes download of this episode. The other thing that you want to prioritize is fiber. Fiber is also important. This can help with lowering your cholesterol, making sure that your insulin levels are balanced. It can also help you feel full and maintain a healthy weight. So make sure you get your protein and your fiber. On that part, I'm pretty good. I love fruits and vegetables and legumes and whole grains. So all that, I don't have a problem with fiber, but just keep that in mind that when you're making a plate, especially if you want to build like a nice, well-balanced plate, you want to make sure you're thinking about what is your protein source and what is your fiber source. So fiber includes vegetables and fruits. Legumes also have different types of fibers. Also nuts and seeds. There are some vegetables that are an exception, like potatoes, sweet potatoes, corn. They're starchier. I would put those in the category of more starchy carbs, along with like different whole grains and cereals. Those are totally okay to consume. You want to just eat them like as an accessory to the meal and not make them the main course. I like to give this example to my clients of like spaghetti and meatballs. I have this 90s baby Lady and the Tramp reference. So like in the movie, they would have a bunch of pasta and sauce and a few meatballs. And that's like a very carb-based meal with just a bit of protein. You want to reverse that. You want to have like the meat or the protein as the centerpiece, and then add a little pasta in there. And I would also add like some zucchini squash or something for added fiber. So to sum it up, focus on your protein and fiber source, and then think of like the carbohydrates as the accessory to the meal. Fats, a lot of you probably already know by now that, it's not something that we should eliminate from our diet, especially as women and especially for fertility health. It's just with fats, a little bit goes a long way. So it's not like you have to make sure that you have like a whole bunch of fat in your meal. I like to consume my fat also, kind of like the carbs. It's like an accessory to the meal. So maybe it's a little bit of avocado, a tablespoon of olive oil, some nuts as a snack, some seeds, tahini, which I love, some homemade tzatziki. So you see, it's like not something that you have to be so intentional of like having a block of butter on on your plate. It's enough as like a lot of times we get enough fat just by adding like a vinaigrette to our meal or having some olives. It's not hard to get fat in our diet. So that's why I'm not making it a main focus on the plate. You're probably using a little cooking oil or using a dressing or adding some cheese or something. So you want to make sure it's there. You don't want to eliminate the fat from your diet. Make sure it's there, but you don't have to overdo it. Women who don't eat enough fat can risk, not menstruating anymore, losing their period. You want to make sure you're eating enough fats in your diet. But again, a little bit goes a long way. It's not something that you have to like think too hard about. And the Cliff Notes, I also have like a meal plan example just so you can see what that looks like. Now on to supplements. So the first supplement that you're probably already familiar with is a prenatal vitamin. And yes, it is advised to take a prenatal or at least in the minimum folic acid. But prenatal vitamins are advised to take even before you get pregnant while you're trying to conceive. They just supply like these basic nutrients that you need, like vitamin D, iodine, folic acid, iron. And these are like just the basics to make sure that you have a healthy developing fetus. The next supplement is vitamin D. Yes, there's usually vitamin D in the prenatal vitamin, but sometimes it ranges between like 400 IUs to like 800, 1,000. During this period, I'm taking an additional 1 to 2,000 IUs a day in addition to what's in the prenatal. It can support ovarian health, hormone regulation, successful implantation, and also for your partners out there. And I'll talk about that a little bit later, but make sure your partner is also getting adequate vitamin D. It's been shown to improve sperm quality and sperm motility as well. And to any women out there who are going through IVF, vitamin D has also been linked to improved fertility outcomes. And just a tip, vitamin D is a fat-soluble vitamin, so it's best to take it with a meal that has a little bit of fat, oil, etc. The next supplement that I'm taking is DHA. You're probably familiar with omega-3 fatty acids, the EPA and DHA. So specifically for fertility, women's health, also when you're pregnant, DHA can improve oxidative stress and just create a more healthier uterine environment, among other benefits. So it's recommended to take a minimum of 300 milligrams of DHA. I'm taking 500 right now. DHA, like vitamin D, should be taken with a meal that contains a little bit of fat. If you've been researching fertility, you've probably heard of this next supplement as well, and that's coenzyme Q10 or ubiquinone. Coenzyme Q10 is something that can benefit both you and your male partner. It improves egg and sperm quality. This is particularly beneficial for women over the age of 35. It's an antioxidant, so it protects the eggs from oxidative stress. And the recommended dosage is 200 milligrams up to 3 times per day. And that's what I'm taking. CoQ10 is a fat-soluble antioxidant, so you also want to take this with a meal that contains a little bit of fat. Also, you want to split the dosages throughout the day. So I wouldn't take 600 milligrams at once. I would take 200 milligrams with breakfast, 200 milligrams with lunch, and 200 milligrams with dinner to get a nice steady dosage. I don't want to overwhelm my system all at once. The next and final supplement that I'm taking right now is L-carnitine. Like coenzyme Q10, it's also recommended for women above the age of 35 for improving fertility outcomes. And this is also a useful supplement for you and your partner to take right now. Technically, you can take L-carnitine with or without a meal, but I prefer to take it with a meal because it can cause stomach upset if you take it on an empty stomach. And like I mentioned when I spoke about protein, I'm also drinking a protein shake on days where I'm not reaching my protein targets or I just don't feel like eating a full meal. So that's also a supplement. I'll have all of the supplements listed with dosages and tips in the cliff notes of this episode. Now on to exercise or physical activity. And we know the benefits of physical activity for like our health and longevity, but physical activity is also great for fertility and when you get pregnant as well. It was really important for me to prime my body to make sure I'm building muscles and have a strong body and carry a baby for 9 months. Exercise is beneficial for both men and women when it comes to fertility. In addition to a healthy diet, it can help you lose weight, which can improve fertility outcomes as well. Physical activity can help with insulin sensitivity, which is a leading cause of infertility, especially for women with PCOS, polycystic ovary syndrome. Exercise can also help lower cortisol levels, a stress hormone, which can also harm fertility outcomes when it's too high. Exercise and movement in general will help you just, improve your circulation and make sure the blood is flowing to wherever it needs to go, sending oxygen everywhere to your reproductive organs, and so much more. There are like so many reasons that you should exercise in general, and especially if you're planning on having a baby. So the same as the general public, the recommended amount of exercise for women who are trying to conceive is 150 minutes of moderate intensity exercise, which can be broken down into like a 30-minute workout 5 days a week. And just for reference, moderate intensity means that you get your heart rate up, but you can still hold a conversation. And just to reiterate, this is like the minimum amount. If you want to do more, you're welcome to do more. Like for me personally, I'm doing CrossFit. I wanted to get the benefits of cardio and strength training. And then I'm doing Pilates like 1-2 days a week for like that mind-body connection, core lengthening, strengthening. So those are things that I enjoy doing. Do whatever you like to do, as long as it's something. If you like to do nothing, don't do that. So do whatever exercise you enjoy. Maybe that's a dance class, maybe that's swimming, whatever. Because if you enjoy it, then you'll actually be consistent. And one of the reasons that it was important for me to like condition my body at least 3 months before I get pregnant was because I wanted to be able to continue to exercise throughout my pregnancy. So it's not so recommended to just start doing CrossFit while you're pregnant. But if it's something that you did before you got pregnant, you can continue. Like you have like athletes and, Serena Williams played pregnant, but that's because her body is used to it. This is something that she was doing before she got pregnant. So she was able to continue throughout her pregnancy. So I'm starting now so that I can continue to do the same exercise throughout my pregnancy. I was also active throughout my previous pregnancy. Back then it wasn't CrossFit. I was doing mainly like Pilates and I was like running and doing some home workouts because it was COVID and things kept getting shut down. But I found a really cool home workout that I was consistent with throughout my whole pregnancy. And if you go online, there are plenty of examples of like prenatal workouts, prenatal home workouts that you can do. And I also put a playlist down below. But like with anything, you don't want to overdo it because if you exercise too strenuously, this can mess with your hormones. So a healthy amount of exercise can help balance your hormones. Going in too hard, doing too much, this can actually hurt you. For example, they're like, super athletic, gymnasts, professional gymnasts that lose their period because they're exercising too much. But realistically, girl, you're not doing all that. So you can relax. Your Pilates class or, weight training class 3 times a week you'll be fine. That'll be beneficial for you. So that's not to scare you. Exercise is good, but like with anything, you shouldn't overdo anything. And when in doubt, you can consult with your healthcare provider. Something I forgot to mention was water. That's another thing that I haven't been so great with, hydration. Now I'm like so intentional about, I fill up my liter Stanley and I sip up the whole thing and try to fill it up again. So I've been really good about drinking water lately. And another thing that I don't think gets talked about a lot, which I also was intentional about my last pregnancy, is avoiding plastics, not drinking out of plastic bottles and things. Like, we're finding microplastics in babies, and it's causing all types of things that, I won't get into much right now, but drink out of glass or metal bottles whenever possible. Your Tupperware and things like that. Just make sure you're not consuming too many things out of plastic, especially things that are heated. I don't know, when they ship these plastic bottles from place to place, you don't know how long they're sitting in the sun. So you don't want to put hot food in plastic and then eat from it. So just kind of reduce the plastic use when possible. You want to be careful with things that you're putting on your skin, like fake fragrances and body lotions and things like that are heavily scented and have phthalates and parabens and things that are potential endocrine disruptors. I'm always better to be on the safe side. And it's just a short period in your life. Just kind of reduce the use of that now. In general, I prefer fragrance free just because I have sensitive skin. But also with perfumes and things like that, I'm keeping everything very minimal. Sleep is a big one. Another thing that I haven't been great on. I have a toddler, but I've been a lot more intentional about putting him to sleep and then getting myself ready for bed too, and trying to get a minimum of 7 hours of sleep. Sleep is super important for fertility. Try to get a minimum of 7 hours of sleep. Give your body that time to restore itself for you and for your partner. De-stress when possible. In general, I know it's easier to say than done, don't stress out. But if you're a person that's anxious and high stress, try to find things that you enjoy that can help you de-stress. Maybe that's a hot bath or journaling or listening to your favorite music, but just don't stress out too much, because stress isn't good for your body as well. I've heard so many stories about women who were stressing about getting pregnant, and then they had problems and they were able to get pregnant. And then when they finally released and they let go, this literally happened recently to a couple that we know, friends of ours. And then when they kind of gave up, then they got pregnant. So not just about, getting pregnant, but in general, just try not to stress. It doesn't do anything beneficial for you. Another thing that I'm doing as far as lifestyle is limiting my caffeine intake. In general, I'm more a one and done type of person. But lately, when I'm working late and everything, I'll drink a little espresso so I can stay up later. But because I stopped staying up late, I don't need that second espresso anymore. So you don't want to overdo it with the caffeine, because in the case that you do get pregnant, there's time until you get that missed period, and it has been linked to miscarriages. So better safe than sorry, and one is enough. Or you can have a stash of decaf coffee to make your decaf ice latte or whatever you like to drink. And take in consideration that caffeine can come from other sources besides coffee. I don't know, maybe you're drinking some energy drink or a bunch of hot cocoa, or I don't know what. Just limit your caffeine intake. I've mentioned this quite a few times, but get your partner on board. A lot of times, especially when people get into have fertility issues, it's so easy to blame the woman. But I know a few cases where the woman blamed herself, but it was actually the man that had the problem. And a lot of these things can be prevented and treated even without nothing super invasive. It can be just getting your partner on board of going to bed at a certain time, or getting on board with taking the CoQ10 and vitamin D and L-carnitine with you. You're a team, you're doing this together. You want to make sure that your partner's sperm is the highest quality it can be, especially if you're trying to do your best to make sure your egg is, quality egg. So yeah, you're in this together. The baby is half you, half him. So if you have any questions, you want some personalized, tailored recommendations for you, you can book a one-on-one session with me. I'll link it in the show notes. And I'll have everything that I spoke about in this episode and the cliff notes in the show notes as well. There are some things that I will be changing once I do get pregnant. So let me know in the comments if you want a video on what I'm changing in this protocol once I get pregnant. There's some things that I'll be removing and some things that I'll be adding. I hope all of us get pregnant in due time and we have a healthy and beautiful pregnancy. Don't stress out about it. Just live your life and do what you can to be healthy, and our babies will come. And if you found some value in this episode, please, please, please like it, share it with somebody who will also benefit from it, and subscribe to my channel so you can see more episodes like this. It really helps with the algorithm and everything. So thank you in advance.
And it's a ticket talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it, get it. And it's a ticket talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta